Hello friends, I am delighted to welcome you back once again to the demo of 12 more key functions of eCAAT. This is the third video on the eCAAT series. I am C. Abdul Rafiq, Managing Director of Wincer Infotech Limited. This slide gives you the complete list of videos which we are covering in this series on data analytics and eCAAT. The first video was on Introduction to Data Analytics, where we provided you an overview of what data analytics or CAAT is all about. The second video was on overview of eCAAT, how eCAAT is a data analytics software. It is an add-in to Excel which has the ease of use of Excel but the power of database. It enhances the use of Excel and empowers user to perform complex functions without knowing macros. Then we covered the walkthrough and demo of 12 key functions of eCAAT. Then we had one more video on walkthrough and demo of 12 more key functions of eCAAT-2. And this is the third video which covers walkthrough and demo of 12 key functions of eCAAT. And we'll have the final video, which will be the next video, which will cover a walkthrough and demo of 15 key functions. With this, we will be covering 51 key functions of data analytics. We have used eCAAT as a tool to demonstrate the power of data analytics. If, as a professional and a knowledge worker, you know how to use this 51 powerful data analytics tool, you will find that you can use any data analytics software, because most of the data analytics software would have some or most of these functions. So welcome back again to this video, and let's enjoy the presentation on the 12 more key functions of eCAAT. This slide gives you the list of 12 eCAAT functions which we are going to cover in this demo. We'll start with Stratify. We'll stratify the data based on numeric and date and look at what are the financial statement assertion we can confirm through this. We'll summarize the data, numerical data. We'll also look at cumulative total. We'll look at percentile, how to compute percentiles. We will perform a gap analysis based on a character field. We will perform outlier function to identify outliers based on the average, the number of times, or based on the standard deviation, based on the number of times. We'll also identify duplicates in the same row. For example, the maker and checker being the same for the transactions or the details entered. We'll look at the top LastX functions. We'll look at the changes, identify the changes between two worksheets, compare them cell by cell. We'll look at using the template analytical review and see the changes in the balance sheet in terms of the value and the percentage. We will relate 3 files which have common fields and append these files using simple function without copying and pasting the data, and also maintaining the relationship. And finally, we'll do consolidate these 3 files to get the count and the total. Stratify menu has the following 4 functions. You can stratify based on numeric data. You can stratify based on date related data, character data, or key fields. Now let's look at stratify numeric and then followed by date. What is meant by stratify numeric? This function groups numeric data into different strata as specified by the user and displays the count and the sum with the percentage for each strata. Let us give an example. You can stratify the sales by amount, by unique amount, to identify the sum and the count as per each unique strata. We will use the sales transaction file from the eCAAT sample data. The financial statement assertion or the analysis we can do by performing this test is we can verify the accuracy and completeness of the data. Let's go to eCAAT and perform this function. Now I have opened eCAAT tab, clicked on the eCAAT tab, and this is the index file which shows you the list of the files which are in the sample data. We are going to look at the sales trans file. I click on the sales trans file and I got the data. Now those of you who are seeing this file for the first time, you see the number of transactions here. Totally there are 6,666 transactions, and this data is for the year 1st April 2016 to 31st March 2017. I would like to stratify the data, stratify based on numeric. When you perform stratification. This stratification is possible on numeric field. So it identifies the numeric fields. I select sales, and by default it identifies what are the minimum value and the maximum value. It also divides the difference between the maximum and the minimum value and finds the increment. I would like to go with 30,000 as the increment rather than go by the default increment, and I want to fill these intervals. I say autofill. Now you got this 500 to 30,499, 30,500 to 60,499. Like that, it has created the strata. Now the next thing I have to do is I can also perform group by. I'm not going to do the group by, and what are the fields I want to display in the result. And I can also put a condition, which means I want to perform stratification for only sales which is greater than 10,000. I say OK. Now you find the stratification function is started. You should be able to get the count and the sum and percentage for each strata of data. So if you see here, 500 to 30,499, we have 4,940 records, and the percentage 74% is the total count. And similarly, if you look at in terms of sum of sales, you get the total value, and in terms of percentage, it is 35%. Similarly, the next strata, like that you got all the strata. So using this, you can also know which are the high value items, and you can focus on this. Okay, this is how you can do stratification by date. As I said earlier, you can also double click and see the result of the specific strata, the data pertaining to specific data. Now you would like to have this in Excel. I just click on Excel, the data will be copied into Excel. I can also do further analysis here. For example, I would like to look at in terms of value. It's already arranged in this descending order. So if I would like to have it in ascending order, I just do a single click, I get this in ascending order. Let's perform the same function again. I go to data and I go to stratify. Now I'm going to do based on the date. I've got the invoice date. Field to stratify is the invoice date, and then I would like to total the sales. Period is the number of days. I can do in terms of number of based on the weeks or months or year. I'll do by the month. It is already selected the minimum date and the maximum date, and I'll say I want it based on interval of 45 days. I say fill. I can also use the free interval where I can specify for each of them what the interval I want. For example, the first interval could be 45 days, next interval could be 60 days, the third interval could be 90 days. And then I say OK. Now you see, you will get the result of the data stratification. You should be able to see each strata of 45 days. It will give you the count and the sum. You see here from 1st April 2016 to 16th May, there are 1,201 items, and this is the percentage. Now based on this, you can clearly find out what are the strata, what is the percentage and count for each strata of data. This is how simple it is to use stratification. So stratified date we already seen. Now let's go to summarize quick. What is meant by summarize quick? It summarizes and totals the data in the selected numeric column based on each distinct value and displays the corresponding count and sum with percentage. For example, I would like to summarize the sales as per each unique value to identify the pattern of sales based on each unique value. We'll be using the sales trans file for this. The assertions or the analysis which I can perform through this is I can get to know the accuracy of the data, I can also know the completeness of the data, and I can also perform further analysis as required. I have the sales transaction. Now I go to data and then I pick up summarize. Now I'm going to select quick summarize. It shows me. Now if you just follow this, I have to select the field sales. I accumulate based on the sales, and I want the sum and the count. I can also group by, which means I can group by, let's say, name or user ID. Here I'm not doing this, and I say OK. Now I should be able to get for each unique value of sales the total count, the percentage of count, the total sales, and the percentage of sales. Now if you see here, that totally 565 rows of records, which gives me the summary. Now I would like to do further analysis and get to know what is the total number. So I can just click here, single click. I'll be able to know that the 2,26,500 is the highest value of sales and the count is only 1,95,000, there's only one value. So I can actually do the analysis based on this. So this is the summarize quick field. Let us perform this again and do the grouping. Summarize quick. I would like to group based on the name of the customer. I select the field I want to summarize. I select accumulate based on the sale, and I want to group based on the name. Now what is the result I expect to get? I would like to get the sale as per each customer with each unique value, which means for each type of customer I should be able to know what the unique value of sales, how many number of times the customer has bought. Just look at this idea. Based on this we can find out what the unique number of transactions. For example, somebody is doing transactions of 9,500 rupees, which is below the limit. We can find out how many number of times that particular transaction has been done. Now if you see here, we know there are two blank values. Now for each customer, now for example ABGen, he has bought 5,000 rupees. Again he's bought 30,800, 58,300, 60,300 and 30,400. Okay, this is the total, and here I get the sales. This gives me the total count. Like this I can get for all the customers. Totally there are 5,008 records. So this gives you customer wise, and for each customer I also know each purchase value and the number of times this purchase has happened. Now if you would like to perform this function, for those of you who are using eCAAT, I suggest you can pause the video, open the sample data, open eCAAT, open the sample data and perform this function. You find it very simple to use and learn the functions. Let's now go to cumulative total. What is the cumulative total? Most of you know cumulative total or a subtotal is for we do a cumulative total, a running total for the selected numeric column. For example, I would like to compute the cumulative total for salary paid for each of the employees during a year. I'll use the payroll file from the eCAAT sample data. Using this function, I should be able to confirm to the financial statement assertion, verify the accuracy or the completeness of the data. I need to go to the payroll file. So I click on the index sheet. Those of you who have not seen my earlier videos, you know index sheet is also one more unique function which is there in eCAAT. I just go to document, index sheet, and I click on index sheet. You find the index sheet is generated. The index sheet gives me a list of all the files. It shows me what is the type of the file, if it's a hidden sheet or a normal sheet. It shows me the number of rows, number of columns and the number of cells. This is excellent for the purpose of documenting the number of functions which you're working on. So we were supposed to, it also gives you the link so that I can navigate quickly to that particular file. So I'm going to go to payroll. Now I got this payroll file which has got the salary which has been paid for each of the months. Now if you look at the month wise, you get to see this is for the full financial year from April to March 2017. Okay, I would like to have the cumulative total for each of the employees. So let's go to the function totals, cumulative total or subtotal. Just follow the steps. This will display automatically, it will display only the numeric fields. I want the total of the actual pay, and I want to use the subtotal because I don't want total for all the employees, this one. So I would like to have total based on the employee name. So this like group by, for each of the employee names I want to get the actual pay. Select fields. I don't want all the fields, so I'm going to deselect and say I want only the employee number, employee name, and then I want the actual pay. Now if you see here, we have selected the actual pay here. So these are the three fields I want. Okay, and then I select OK. Now for all the number of records which is there, let's say about 300 plus records are there. This is salary which has been paid for all the employees during the year. It gives me the cumulative total. For example, for employee Ankur Singhal, it tells me what the salary which is paid first, again the salary, next salary, third salary. I could have put the month also, then would have got the month also. Here I didn't select the month. So for each of the month, I'll get this. Let me perform this again with the month so that you can get. How do I do this? Go to data, totals, cumulative subtotal. I select the actual pay, and then here I select this subtotal, and in subtotal I'll give the name of the employee. Next, select fields. I don't want all the fields. I want the month, and I want the employee number, employee name, and the actual pay. This is what I want. Okay, and then I click OK. Now I'll get the result. Now if you see here, I got the month, employee number, employee name, the actual pay for the month of April, May, and the cumulative total of the running total, again June. So this way I can actually find out, do a close scrutiny of the salary which has been paid to each of the employees for each of the months, and also find out the exceptions which are there. And I can also find out, for example, I would like to do further analysis based on this. Let's say I would like to pick up all cases of employees where the salary is greater than, let's say 50,000. And see, dynamically it is picked up. There are 29 cases of salary where it is more than 50,000 rupees. And I can also get the names. I also get the employee details. Right? This is what we had. Now let's go to the next function. Now let's go to a very powerful function called percentiles. Now this percentile is a function which is available in high-end software, where you are breaking the data into percentages as required by you. So what does the percentile do? It groups values for the selected column as per the clusters of percentiles based on the number of clusters specified by you. For example, I would like to identify the purchases as per the clusters based on the quantity of purchase, and I'll define what the percentile I want. For example, I'd like to have 10%, which means I'll select 10 clusters, or if I want 20%, I'll select 5 clusters. Okay, using this I can perform assertions or analysis based on completeness or accuracy. We will use the sales trans files once again to perform this analysis. I'm just using the sales trans file because the most convenient. You can use any file. For example, I could use the procurement file also for this. Now I got the sales trans file. Now I go to data, and then I've got here percentiles. I select percentiles. It's important you know what is that you're looking for. Select the right function, and then you can perform the analysis. Now here I want to group by based on the name of the customer. Now let's do one thing. I think sales may not be the right file. Let's go to procurement to perform this function. In procurement, I would like to do the percentile based on the material code and the quantity. Let's go to data, percentile. eCAAT does the analysis, picks up the fields and tells you which are the fields available. I want to do based on the material code, and I want to group. I want to group based on the material code, and I want input. I want the primary field. I want to do based on the quantity. I could also do based on the total amount. Okay, I can do based on the details or the summary. Instead of the default, I go for the user selection, and I say I want number of groups. I'll say 5. Okay, by default I have said I would like to have 5 groups, which means let's look at the result and see what the percentiles we get. For each material code, I get the quantity, which is from 0 to 20%, again from 21 to 40%, 41 to 60%, and 61 to 80%, and 81 to 100%, and I also get all the data. And if I want, I can also extract this result based on what I require. So this is a very, very powerful function which is available in most of the high-end software, where you can pick up clusters of data based on the specific criteria. Percentile is also available in analysis. Now here we find we did this one. So same percentile I can also perform here, but you see the difference here in the case of analysis, there is a bonus function which I am showing you. Here I select the analysis field, which is the material code, and then I select the X and the Y axis. Here I select the X axis, which is the quantity, and then the Y axis I select the unit price. Okay, and then I say user selection, and then I say 5. Now let's look at the difference here, and I also say I want the statistics, and I click on OK. Now you find here for each material code I get the quantity and the unit price, which means I'm getting based on the X and Y axis, and it also gives me the cumulative percentage for each of the quantity and the unit price. So it means you can get to know the lower quantity and the lower unit price, the higher quantity and the higher unit price based on clusters of 20. These are the 5 clusters. I can also get a chart based on this. This is as far as the percentile is concerned. Let's go to the next function, which is the top LastX. This is also available in Excel, but you find we have got much more features than what is built in Excel. So the function is very simple. It displays the topmost or bottommost X number of records from the selected column with the option to group as per another specific column. For example, I would like to select the top 12 sales as per the sales made to each of the customers. I'm going to use the sales trans file once again. Using this, I can perform analysis and also use it for verifying the accuracy and completeness of the data. Let me come back to sales trans. Here I would like to go to the top LastX. I selected the top LastX. Now see the permutation combinations of analysis which is available to you. Now I have got this. I would like to perform top LastX on sales. It is important to select the right field, and then I'd like to group it based on the name, the customer, right? And it gives me all the customers, which means I can perform analysis for each of the customers. I'd like to select all the customers, and what that I want the top 12 sales made for each of the customers, and I can have the details or I can also get the summary. I'd like to focus on the details. So what do I expect to get? I expect to get, so eCAAT is showing an error. I think there is some issue here. Let's perform this function again. Data, totals. Now we are in top LastX. Now let me just perform this. I picked up sales and I wanted the total number of sales, 12. Let's perform without the group by now. Okay, I got this unit. I would like to have the total, and then I'll say OK. So here in all the sales transaction which has happened, the 6,666, I get the top 12 sales which has happened. Same way, I should also be able to get for each of the customer. Right. Now let's go ahead to the next function, which is duplicates in same row. This is an interesting function where we are going to verify the maker checker concept. So it displays the duplicate values, and the duplicate values could be pertaining to the character, date or numeric field, and they're in the same row. For example, I would like to find the transactions entered and authorized by the same user, which means the maker and the checker is the same. We'll use the procurement file from the eCAAT sample data. The assertions which I can make is I can verify the authorization, and I can also validate the segregation duties which has been done. So we'll go to the procurement file here. Now if you see this fields here, I have got the maker and the checker. Let's see, I've got the users. Where do you have the maker and the checker? I've got only the user here. Okay, so it means I don't have the maker checker here. Let's go to procurement. This is the procurement file. Okay, so we don't have the maker and the checker. Let's see which is another file where we can get this data. Let's see the payroll file, whether we can get this in the payroll file. I got the payroll file. Yes, payroll file is where we have got the maker and the checker. Now I would like to know for each of the salary which has been paid, which has been entered in the system, whether the maker and the checker are same. How do I verify this? I go to identify, duplicates, and then I identify in the duplicates in the same row. So what is that I would like to identify? I'd like to identify duplicates in the same row. What are the identifiers? I would like to verify the maker and the checker, which means these are the duplicates. I can also say select fields. What are the fields I want to display? Here I'd just like to keep the employee name, and I would like to have the maker and the checker. These are the three names. I would also like to have the month in which this data has been entered. I can also put a condition. Let's say okay. Now here I should be able to find out. See, there are totally 9 records, okay, where the maker and the checker are same. Now let's go to the next function, which is outliers. What is an outlier? Outlier displays the records that exceed X number of times average or standard deviation of selected numeric column. For example, I would like to identify sales which are 3 times the average sales or standard deviation. So using this function, I can validate the accuracy and also identify exceptions in the data, or look at identify red flags. Now here, which is the file I would like to take? I can take up the procurement, or I can also go to the sales file. I come to the sales file. So I go to identify outliers. Outliers, if you see, there are 3 types of functions: by mask, by bounds, by numbers. I'm just giving you one example by numbers. You can explore the other functions on your own. You can also refer to the help which is available. You can also look at tip of the day. I would like to find outlier based on the sale. Now this is very simple. I can also do group by based on the name. I'm not doing any group by. I'd like to pick up all cases of sales which is 4 times the average sales. I say okay. So eCAAT dynamically computes the average sales, multiplies by 4 and subtract it by the actual sales, and gives you the number of transactions. So actually there are totally 25 transactions where the outliers as defined by you are confirmed. So if you see here, it tells you the sales, the invoice number, what is the difference, and what is the number of times the outlier is performed. So you'll be able to easily identify the number of times in terms of the outliers. You can also perform the outlier function based on the standard deviation. So I have the sales. So you see, very simple. You have to select, be clear about what is that you are performing. I would like to find out 3 times the standard deviation. I select the standard deviation and click OK. So just in a few clicks, you are able to perform outliers. Now just imagine if you have to do the same thing in Excel, how many steps you have to follow. So there are totally 364 records where the records exceed 3 times the standard deviation. You want the data in Excel, you can just click on this, you'll be able to get the result in Excel. Now let's look at character gaps. What are the character gaps? You can identify the gaps in the character field. Now it means you are identifying, it displays the gaps in successive alphanumeric records whose difference is within the given character mass. For example, I would like to identify the gaps in transaction number, which is alphanumeric field, ignoring the characters which are given. Now I'll use the account transaction file from the eCAAT sample data. Using this function, I can perform the audit test, and this will help me in verifying the accuracy and validity of the data. So let's go to the account trans file. How do I go to the account trans file? We have the account trans file here. This is the account trans file. Now I would like to perform on the transaction number. I would like to identify the gaps in the transaction number. I go to identify gaps, and then I have gaps I can perform based on numeric, date or character. You can explore the numeric and date using the sales trans file. I'm going to just pick up one example of character gaps. So eCAAT will actually do an analysis of each of the fields. I'm going to pick up the transaction number. See, dynamically it picks up the field mask and tells you how many characters are based on the first character. It tells me how many characters are there and what are the number of numerics. I can also group by based on specific criteria. I'm not doing grouping here. Now just see, just one more click. I should be able to eliminate the characters and find out what the gaps in the transaction ID. Now if you see here, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. up to 11, and after 11 you find this 11 is repeated instead of 12. Again, if you go further, you find 23 is missing. So you got 24 which is missing. Again, 41 is missing. This is how easy it is to perform. See, 23 is missing, 24 is missing here. Again, you find 41 is missing because it's a blank. This is how simple it is to use the eCAAT functions. Now let's look at one more interesting function which you cannot perform in Excel also, which is identify changes. What does identify changes do? It compares two worksheets cell by cell and highlights all the changes or the non-changes and displays comments with changes or a list of changes. For example, I'd like to identify changes by making cell by cell comparison for the employee salary paid for the current month compared to the previous month. I'm going to use the employees November and the employees December files or worksheets from the eCAAT sample data. By performing this function, I should be able to verify the accuracy and the completeness of the data. For example, I could also use it to verify the closing balance and the opening balance, provided there are no changes. So I'm going to go to the function where we will be looking at employee November, December. Let's see here. Okay, where do we have employees November and December? We have got employees November and December. Now this gives you the employees of November. So there are totally 24 records. And next I have got the employees of December, which also has got 24 records. I would like to compare cell by cell this employees November and the December file. I go to identify. No, it's there in changes. Changes, identify changes. This has got many possibilities. You can do it on the active workbook or multiple workbooks. So by default, the employee December is selected. I'd like to verify this with the employee November. Okay, and I want to display only new sheet records or display both new and old sheet records. And I want to identify cells that have changed and I want them to be highlighted in this color. I say OK. Now you see eCAAT has actually gone through each of the fields and identified which are the fields which are changed. In this case, Malika Arjuna H, the date of birth it was given as 17/8/1999. Here it has been changed to 76. So you'll be able to identify all the changes which have been between each of the cells, the changes which have happened. Now let's come to one more interesting function, which is the analytical review. What does analytical review do? It displays the difference between values of two numeric columns in number and in percentage. For example, I would like to compare the balance sheet items for 2 years and identify the variance between them in terms of value and the percentage. I'll use the balance sheet file for this, where I've got the data for 2 years. Using this function, I can verify the accuracy and I can also verify the presentation disclosure, and this also helps me in performing the analytical procedure. So I have to go to the balance sheet file. Let's see where the balance sheet file. I come to index. Let us search for the balance sheet file. Yes, we got the balance sheet file. Let's click on the balance sheet file. Now this is the balance sheet file. I've got May 17 and March 17 and March 2016. I got these two figures. What I would like to do is I go to templates, and here I have got analytical review. So in analytical review, I want to compare March 16 and March 17. By default selected, and I want to show all records, show records with difference, or show records with no difference. I'm going to select show all records. It's very simple. This is a very simple function which you can perform in Excel also very easily. But here we are able to do in a few clicks, whereas in Excel it would have taken much more time. That's why we call eCAAT as also a time saver function. So if you see here, we got for each of the head of accounts, it gives me what the absolute difference and also the percentage difference for each field. This is what we call as the analytical review. Let's now append the files. What is append file? I can group a set of files with matching columns into one workbook. So I would like to worksheet, append expense of 3 months in a single worksheet. For example, I'm going to use the expense April, expense May and expense June files from the eCAAT sample data. Using this, I can do further analysis and also verify the accuracy and completeness. For example, I got the payroll file of each of the months for April to March. I'd like to append these files and then later on consolidate. In the next function, we'll see consolidate also. So I'd like to now go to April 2016. Let's see, where do we have April? Yes, we have got expense of April. Okay, similarly I got one more file which is, we're not looking at expense May and expense of June. Okay, let's pick up expense of April. Now I would like to go to append files. I say append files. Now the column should be matching. By default, eCAAT will identify the matching files in this workbook. See, we already identified which are the matching columns. I select expense of April and May. I can also do this from multiple workbooks, not necessarily the same active workbook. I've selected this and I have to select OK. I can also decide the order in which I want. It's already there. Now look at the beauty of this. I don't need to copy and paste. Now there could be 12 files or 15 files. eCAAT will not only add that, it will also add the worksheet reference name. Now if you see here, I've got the worksheet name and the worksheet name is for April, May and June. Okay, and it has got all the columns, all rows with the columns, and when there's a change, it also highlights the change, which means you have got May, then after that you got June. So using this, I can also do the consolidate, summary, etc. Now let's go to the next function, the last function in this video. We're going to look at consolidate. So we're going to merge the data from all these 3 files, and I want to get the count and the sum. I'm going to use the same files. We can verify the accuracy and completeness of the data performing this function. So I'm coming back to expense of April. What I'd like to do is consolidate. I go to relate. Consolidate is also available in Excel. You can explore that also, and you can find out the difference between what is there in eCAAT and in Excel. So one of the things to find is, although Excel is supposed to be very easy to use, our function is also, eCAAT is much more simpler and easier to use. Now it has found out that there are 2 matching files, which is May and June. Now I want to summarize based on the expenditure. Now you find if you have to do in Excel, this is a little more complex. Okay, primary sheet is expense April. Consolidate field. What is the consolidate field? I want to, this is very important, what field you select, because computers operate based on the principle of garbage in, garbage out. If you not selected the field correctly, you will get the wrong result. So I want to consolidate based on the head of account. The primary sheet is the expense April. The secondary sheets are May and June. What is the result I expect to get? Let's see the magic from eCAAT. Now if you see, for each head of account, it gives me the count of expenditure. It also gives me the sum of expenditure. Now see, very, very simple to use. So to summarize, you remember we said Excel is like a knife, whereas eCAAT is like a Swiss knife. It has got multiple functions. Depending on the need, you can use the specific tools. So that's why we say eCAAT is a multi-dimensional set of tools. It is a time saver. For example, the same consolidate which I showed you, you try to do through Excel, you find it takes much more time and you will not be able to get all the results which you wanted. It also gives you business intelligence and MIS, which I showed you. For example, clusters, MIS, and also the percentile functions. And like that, there are many more functions which you can use for the purpose of MIS. You can perform data analytics. You would have found in all this demo here, you can perform data analytics in a few clicks. And that is the power and simplicity of eCAAT. There are more than 250 functions in eCAAT. In this video series, I would like to pick up and highlight the 51 key functions. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you got any questions or feedback, you can please email me at the email given. So you can also watch out the next video where we will cover the 15 key functions of eCAAT that will be the last video of this series. As I said, it's important that we should learn how to provide advisory and assurance services at speed using technology, so that we are able to be at the forefront of technology. Thank you very much for watching this video. Look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye. You can watch the videos on this link.